Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 90. I am Brendan. Today we're going to go over UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Daukaus. We'll cover Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley Dose and the card that was. I mean, we can go over the rest of the fights on that card, too. And we'll cover the rest. I mean, the thing is we have 3-4 weeks off. We don't have fights again until the 15th of the new year, so we don't have much to talk about in the next couple weeks, nothing to break down. So, which means next week I should be doing a final breakdown of Cobra Kai Season 3 with Nate. And then after that, holy crap, so many shows dropped on Netflix that I want to see, like Witcher Season 2, Lost in Space. The new season of Expanse started on Amazon Prime. It's crazy. Anyway, all right, before we get started, if you like what I'm doing, if you like it, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. Like the video. That also helps. I see that a lot of people do watch these videos. They usually watch about 10, 20 minutes. That's fine. I totally get it. That's usually what I do when I'm watching these things. I only watch what I'm interested in. That being said, I started putting timestamps down below, so if you're only interested in a certain part of the card, certain events that took place over the weekend or whatever, I'm going to start timestamping them again so you can click to the things that you're interested in. All right, let's get going. So, we started out, I mean, we could look at the stats for the Derek Lewis fight, but we really don't need to. Derek Lewis got the knockout win. You know, it is what it is. I don't know. There's nothing to break down in Lewis's game, right? He doesn't do anything complicated. He stands there. I mean, here's the deal. You either have one of the most boring fights in MMA, right? And one of the most boring fights in UFC history. Look at Lewis's fights, and not a lot of them are slobber knockers. They're not bangers, okay? Most of them aren't. They're usually really boring. And that's because he only has one plan. Stand there, wait till someone gets close, and throw a big right hand. You know, in the first round, he'll throw like a spinning back kick or a hook kick or a flying knee. He'll throw those things in the first round, but he is always tired. He doesn't take the sport seriously. He comes in he's always at the heavyweight limit. He has so much fat on him. Listen, I'm not saying he's not an athlete per se, okay? And I'm also not saying he can't be successful in the heavyweight division. But for the same reason I'm critical of a lot of the fighters in the women's, featherweight, there's no featherweight division, featherweight, bantamweight, and flyweight division, for the same reason I'm critical of those fights, I'm going to be critical here too. Okay, we have a guy who stands still. He's not... If he was in another sport, he wouldn't be at the top of his game, okay? We're talking about, I mean, at least Shaquille O'Neal. The reason I bring up that comparison is we had another guy who historically and notoriously was very lazy when it came to working in the offseason, but just had insane gift on the court. He was big, he was strong, and that was it. Okay, that's why he was always at odds with Kobe, because Kobe was working really hard, and he hated Shaq because Shaq didn't work as hard as he did. Nobody worked as hard as Kobe, whatever. That's not the best example, because I don't even think Derek Lewis is that blessed, because he's been beat multiple times. He doesn't have a granite chin that keeps him going. He's been knocked out plenty of times. It's just... I understand if that's what you're watching. I'm not gonna MMA kink shame you, okay? If you like watching heavyweight fights to see a knockout, okay? I'm not even gonna put any qualifiers on this statement. Okay, if you want to see knockouts, and that's why you come to watch these events, I'm not gonna say that that's wrong. That's fine. Everybody likes what they like. I tend to like, obviously, I love watching knockouts too. I really do. But I also like watching the stuff behind the knockout, the stuff that sets that up, the history of that fighter. I like fighters. Then here's the other part of it. It's like, I love Derek Lewis outside of the octagon. He's hilarious. He's so freaking funny. Even in there, he's funny. Like the crap he said after he won this fight. Dude, he's so funny. He seems like a really good dude, too. Like, this is not a defamation of his character or who he is as a human being. He seems like a genuinely good guy and a fun one to be around. He's a guy that you'd probably want to go drinking with. That kind of guy. But when it comes to the elites in the division, that's a totally separate argument, okay? And like I was saying, this is how you win against Derek Lewis. You have a really boring fight. You stand on the outside, pick him apart. You don't interact with him. You get him tired, and then you can start wrestling and put him down on the ground. That's the end of it. He's going to force his way up through sheer will and strength. You keep making him do that. He gets tired. You wear him out. That's the end of it. And you don't engage. The second you engage, you lose. Okay, now you can go in, pick him apart, and then back up. I mean, Gon finished him that way. That's how you win against him. You have a really boring fight for most of it. Because if you try to go in there and swang and bang, it's not going to work. Now, Mark Hunt managed to do it because Mark Hunt does have that granite chin. He is the hardest hitting, if not one of, if not the hardest hitting heavyweight of all time. He really is. You want to talk about Francis Ngannou? Yeah, the dude can hit hard. He's also throwing things from his grandma's house. You know, big wind-up shots. They're fast, and they hit hard, and they'll knock you out. There's not that... It's as far as absolute value goes when it comes to power, Francis Ngannou is obviously up there. But Mark Hunt could knock people out with the same ferocity throwing a tight hook. The dude had unreal power. Probably still does, just doesn't fight anymore. So what does this mean? What do we do with Derek Lewis now? You know? Like, he comes off of, he was what, 4 wins in a row? Yeah. So he had 4 wins in a row. Blagoy Ivanov, even though he should not have won that one. It was a split decision. He should not have won that. Alir Latifi should not have won that fight either. Alexei Oleinik knocks him out, gets a TKO. Curtis Blades got the knockout, and then just gets dismantled by Gon. So we've seen the limits here. He has really boring fights, but people love him because he gets big knockouts. He got finished by Junior Dos Santos, and we saw what happened with Daniel Cormier, and when he was given the chance to go up and fight for the belt. And he was fighting for the interim belt with Gon recently. And obviously we know that his fight with Francis Ngannou was one of, if not the worst fight in UFC history. See, that's what I'm talking about, man. The guy just he's back and forth. You know, he gets knocked out. Like, he has a lot of knockouts because he hits hard. It's just, what are you going to do with him now? You know, he's ranked number 3. You're going to have him fight Stipe? Why? You really want to push Lewis versus Ngannou? He had a chance. He fought Gon and lost. Got destroyed. You're going to have him fight Blades again? Volkov makes sense. Why doesn't he fight Rosenstruck? That makes sense. I mean, he just fought Daukaus, who was ranked 7 before this weekend. Rosenstruck is ranked 6, so I think that makes sense. One of those guys. Whatever. All right, let's talk about the co-main event. Bilal Muhammad versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm sorry if I keep coughing. I just drank coffee. So, let's look at what happened here. Bilal got his first takedown at 3 minutes and 40 seconds in the first round. And then he stayed on top pretty much the whole fight. Okay, we can see here this control time was 12 minutes. That's not all on top. Just landing decent shots, and he even had Stephen Thompson splayed out on the bottom. I mean, great win for him. There's no way I'm gonna disparage Bilal Muhammad's win here. He had a game plan. Go in there, get him down to the ground, and dominate him. And that's exactly what he did. He did it for 15 minutes. There was never a point where you thought Bilal Muhammad was going to lose that fight. It was fantastic. What a great performance by him. Wonderboy Thompson has to take a step back again. I mean, I said it after his last loss to Gilbert Burns. I don't think he could ever beat Usman. You know, he is what he is at this point. An older guy, more experienced, and kind of set in stone with his style. I don't know. Maybe it's because Chris Weidman hasn't been able to train with him, and maybe Chris Weidman gives him better looks when it comes to wrestling, and maybe that allows him to be more competitive. But I think what we're seeing is Stephen Thompson kind of hit his peak, and we see what the real weakness is, and it's just wrestling. Okay, you know, he styled on Luque, made Burns look silly on the feet. I mean, him versus Edwards would be fun. We saw it. He fought Masvidal. I think he beats Magny. I mean, there's lots of fun fights for him, but I don't, unless there's a crazy change-up and he never has to fight a wrestler, I don't know if he's ever going to be the welterweight champ, which stinks, because I thought he should have won one against Tyron Woodley maybe, and we'd have maybe a different story, because at least we would have seen him fight Usman, right? I think Tyron Woodley was at the end of his athletic prime and competency when it came to MMA, and if you saw him this weekend, you kind of see maybe Usman wasn't that much of a dominant force, or he was, right? You know, Usman is a dominant force. He's very good, but this thing where, he just shut Tyron Woodley down doesn't seem so impressive now. Like, that was kind of the beginning of the end, right? And I think it was before then, because if you look at his 4 fights before that, they're all pretty much the same thing. So anyway, what's next here for Bilal Muhammad? Just beat the number 5 ranked guy. He was number 10 before this weekend, so he'll probably jump into... you know what I hope? I hope Masvidal doesn't somehow jump ahead of Stephen Thompson. But that might be what happens here. So Bilal Muhammad might jump up to 7 or 6, and he's calling for a title shot, which kind of makes sense because he hasn't fought Usman yet, and the fight with Leon Edwards was stopped short. It's not a real loss. You know, his is he on a 4-fight win streak? Oh, more than that. He was. Right. So he was on a 4-fight win streak. Curtis Millender, Takashi Sato, and whatever. Lyman Good, not bad. Diego Lima, that was a good win. The no contest versus Leon Edwards. Then he beat Damian Maia and Stephen Thompson. So he hasn't had the hardest guys to fight. Yeah, I mean, his only 3 losses in the UFC are Alan Jouban, okay, Vicente Luque, another top-ranked guy, Jeff Neal, up until recently, looked kind of like a world beater, and there's no contest against Leon Edwards. So it's hard to argue with the... I mean, yes, his ranking doesn't dictate that he deserves a title shot next, but his performance and his recent history, I wouldn't be mad if he got a title shot. Right, we've seen much worse. Jorge Masvidal getting the title shot. You know, Kobe Covington getting 2. That wasn't the worst one. Jorge Masvidal getting 2 that was bad. That was real bad. You know, Conor coming back and getting a title shot immediately. It's shit that we just don't need to see. Like, those things, we want to see him. We don't need to see him. Right? There doesn't need to be a title on the line to make that fight interesting. But that's how they do it. So you're going to tell me that Bilal Muhammad he would be worse than those things that we've seen? I don't think so. All right. The strawweight fight. Lemos versus Amanda Lemos. So, all right, I'll just say this. I mean this in kind of a good way, and I'm not trying to disparage her, because she's an excellent fighter. It's just kind of her luck / fighting style kind of leads to this. So reminds me like being the Masvidal of the female divisions. Angela Hill does. And that's because she always keeps herself in these fights, and a lot of people are expecting her to go in and win. but she just doesn't really seal the deal. And because of that, we all feel like she got screwed over by the judges. That being said, and break it down round by round, right? Lemos was doing some really good work with low kicks and then ended up teep kicking her, doing a front kick to the face and putting Angela Hill on her ass in the first round. And later in that round, Hill made a comeback. It landed a few good shots of her own, stumbled Lemos later in the round. I still give the first round to Lemos. Easy peasy. Angela Hill in the second round, on the other hand, landed some decent power shots. Did not really take a back step for most of the second round. More good clinch work. And she just landed a lot more combos. And you can see it in the striking numbers, but the power was also there. She outstruck Lemos and I think did a lot better job in the second round. Clearly Angela Hill's round. Okay. Third round, she was being outlanded as far as damage goes for the first 2 minutes, but then she got a takedown. She got the clinch. Didn't really do more damage. But then Lemos started playing the counter striker up until the end of the fight. And then the damage seemed to lean towards Angela Hill. Okay, she seemed to land more of the damaging shots. And here's the thing: let's say they landed equal damage because we're at 17-18 in favor of Lemos, right? So let's say they landed the same. Well, if you look at octagon control in that third round, I'm giving that to Angela Hill. Okay, I'm almost positive she had more control in that round. So, and she had more control overall, but they don't break it down on here round by round. Anyway, so if she had more control in that third round, and they landed the same damage, I'm giving it to her 10-9. Well, it gives us a 29-28 for Hill. All right? Who the fuck? Doug Crosby, 27-30 in favor of Lemos. It's a split decision, by the way, and she lost again, which sucks because how many split decisions has she lost lately? Tecia Torres, she just got outpointed, right? Tecia is a bad matchup for her because neither one of them hits with a lot of power, and Tecia has a much higher output. So if you're trying to outpoint Tecia Torres, it's not going to happen. You got to knock her out or control her on the ground. So she loses a split decision here. She beat Ashley Yoder, but she lost the split decision to Michelle Watterson. A lot of people thought she won that one. I thought she won the fight against Claudia Gadelha versus split decision. That was a split decision as well. And then what was the other one? Courtney Casey. That was another bad split decision in favor of Casey. It's just one of those things, man. And I say this a lot too, but I don't believe in, don't leave it in the hands of the judges. Now, that's a bullshit thing that people say to minimize an actual problem with the scoring system and the scoring criteria when it comes to MMA and even boxing, okay? We've talked about this before. You shouldn't be worried that the incompetence of officials is going to change your pay, your ability to continue on in your career, and all those things. They should be following the judging criteria that is laid forth in the rule structure, the rule books, and the commission, and all that other thing, blah, 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 blah. And knowing those things going into a fight, if you apply those to your fighting style and you do more of those things than your opponent, you should win the fight, right? And I understand that there is subjectivity involved, but this fight didn't have that. I mean, I could, especially with that one judge giving the second round to Lemos, get the fuck out of here. You're crazy. That didn't happen. So, and even after the fight, Dana White said, he thought Angela Hill got the win there. It just sucks. It just sucks because we're never, the hardcores, and I don't know why I consider myself a hardcore fan. I just watch a lot. I know. I don't know if I'm as hardcore as some people. Okay. Obviously got people like Tommy Toehold and the guys from MMA On Point breaking down fights and doing a lot more videos than I do, looking at more data than I do. They have a team behind them, that kind of stuff. And you got people like Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell from Morning Combat doing all kinds of research. So obviously, I would consider them like the hardcores, okay? Because they're fans. I mean, they're also, not MMA journalists because they don't like to be called that, but MMA content creators. But they do consume a lot of the content. They are hardcore fans. But I will remember this. I will remember that she lost the split decision that she should have won. You will remember this if you're watching these videos, most likely. But for everyone else, when they go to look at her record, that's all they're going to see is a loss. That's all they're going to see. They don't care. It's a split decision. They don't remember this shit. And that's what sucks, especially in MMA. They're very short careers, not a ton of fights. It's not like boxing where you go 40-0, you have 60 fights. That's not that common in MMA. It happens, you will get guys who get 60 fights in their career, 100 fights in their career for the rare ones, that kind of thing. Like, you'll see that once in a while. But most of them have 30, 40 fights in their total career. I don't know. It sucks because I thought she won it and she got screwed again. It's not the worst decision I've ever seen, but it was not good. And that's what sucks is we all can agree. Like, Angela Hill won that fight, but that doesn't matter because, even though it got fight of the night, so she got her $50,000 bonus, she just gets a loss. So now if the UFC treats it like a win, then, we go forward. They've done that before, and I hope they do that. All right, moving on. Simone, sorry. Sometimes I say Simon, sometimes I say Simone. I think I've heard it pronounced both ways. So, in the first round, Simone, I think, set a record, probably, landing the fastest nut shot in UFC history at 3 seconds. Just comes out, and then Assuncao jumps up. It jumps forward, sorry. So he jumped in to engage and got kicked in the nuts. So nobody's fault. I mean, I would take a point regardless. I've pretty hard on that, whatever. Simone got the easy takedown and had control for pretty much like not the whole round, but for like 2 minutes. And then Assuncao worked his way back up. Simone then worked around, picked him up, carried him over to his own corner so he could hear his coaches talking, and then dumped him. So Simone with the old school, Matt Hughes, Sean Shirk deal, picking him up and carrying him to the other side. And then, Simone was able just to move forward with no resistance, and Rafael was overreacting to everything. He was jittery. He was biting on every single feint so hard. And then because of that, Simone caught him, got him with a right hand, put him down, and then finished him off with another right hand with a great knockout. So after this weekend, he should be back in the rankings. I'm pretty sure he's been ranked before. Yeah, so Assuncao was ranked number 12. My guess is he's probably going to drop out of the rankings after this weekend. Again, another one of... we don't have to talk about it. Anyway, he's going to drop out of the rankings most likely, and Simone's might be at 15, and you just drop Assuncao out and then put him at 15. And then he called out Sean O'Malley before the cameras left him, so good call out. I think that makes sense. Him being 15, Sean O'Malley being 13 makes sense. And it makes sense commercially as well, because, well, maybe not commercially. Rankings-wise, advancement-wise, it makes sense. But commercially, I'm sure there's more interesting fights that O'Malley could cash in on. All right, moving on here. Mateus Gamrot versus Diego Ferreira. All right, so they were trading kicks early on, and Diego, I think he had the harder kicks early, but Gamrot was doing a better job avoiding the long combos. So when they were engaging at distance, I feel like Diego was landing the bigger shots. But when he would throw those long combos, early on he was catching Gamrot, but Gamrot was avoiding a lot of them later on and kind of getting his timing down. And he got like this really cool like double drop takedown where he drops down, Diego sprawls, Gamrot gets back up, and then he drops down immediately again to go for a super cool. I love seeing that. Just, it breaks up the monotony of boring trips and throws and all kinds of that kind of stuff. So seeing a guy do a double drop for a takedown was so freaking cool. I'm sure there's a wrestling term for it. I just don't know it. Diego started moving forward, but there was a scenario in which Gamrot got the back of Diego and landed a knee to his side. And then Diego, after a couple more shots, just he verbally tapped. So good call. Good catch by Jason Herzog, stopping the fight. That was a really good stoppage. Yeah, there's... it's unfortunate for Diego Ferreira, but a pretty cool win for Gamrot. Was he ranked before this weekend? Diego Ferreira was ranked number 12. Yep. So he might drop out of the rankings too. Gamrot might be jumping in. Might be the same situation we just talked about with Simone. All right. One of the coolest fights of the night, in my opinion. Killer Cub getting it done. So Elkins was actually the first one to land the big shot. He landed a big right hand. You can look at the stats if you want. If you don't know, I'm a huge fan of Cub Swanson. I love his style. I love his attitude. I love just everything about the way he fights. It's interesting, cool, the hard-hitting stuff. I love all of it. Cub was moving a little bit more deliberately and got his timing and put Elkins down pretty early on. And then he did something that I don't know. I could be mistaken, but I don't know if I've ever seen a UFC fighter when you rock somebody and you move in for that shot. I've never seen someone dance around like he was playing almost like tag. You know how when these guys get knocked down and they're on their hands and knees or they're on all fours, and then the guy comes in to throw another shot, they reach and grab the legs to try and stop the punishment. Well, Elkins does that a lot because he has the cardio. He can take the damage, is his name, obviously, and he can get the takedown, and then that's how he wears on his opponents, or one of the ways he can wear on his opponents. Or he'll drop back into his guard and force you into a ground battle that you don't want to be in. But Cub Swanson was like jumping around him. He was landing a shot, and then he'd jump to the side, or he'd jump to the side and land a shot. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I think more fighters should do it, especially as predominantly a striker. I think if you rock your opponent or you get them down on the ground, why not? Yeah, it takes a little bit of energy to bounce around like that, but I mean, it works. It was super cool. So he obviously he did that, and he kept hitting him down on the ground, but then Elkins worked his way back up. He caught him with a few good shots, and threw a wheel kick that really didn't connect. I think he caught him, like he basically slapped him with his toes. And then Herb Dean moved in and stopped the fight. Elkins didn't get knocked out. I guess it's a TKO. But what the fuck, Herb? Again, with Herb doing this. What is going on? He's stopping fights too late. I understand that being a referee isn't the easiest job in the world. Let me just preface this like I have in the past. I understand it's not the easiest job in the world. I understand that there's a fine line when it comes to stopping a fight at the perfect time. Okay, I understand that. And I'd say he's done a pretty good job, plenty good job in the past. I think I've even congratulated him in the past for stepping in at the very perfect time. But lately, he's missing calls. He's watching guys take way too much punishment before he steps in. And then he's doing shit like this again. Where he's stopping the fight early. Yes, right. Do I think Elkins was going to win this fight? No. But if I'm critical of one fight, I've got to do the same thing again. I got to be consistent in my message, and I will be consistent. Do I think Elkins was going to win? No. Do I think Swanson was probably going to knock him out? Yes. Or get the TKO? Yes. But just because someone lands a hard shot doesn't mean we just have to throw up our hands and be like, oh, he's probably going to knock him out. Let him throw the other 3 shots or 2 shots or 1 shot. Stand right next to the guy. Wait till he throws that shot. If he doesn't defend himself after that or he's not making an intelligent move, step in. It's fine. Right? We've seen him stop the fights when the guy's moving in for the takedown. We've seen them stop the fights when the guy's clearly defending himself. We've seen him stop the fight when the guy's almost dead. I don't know. It's disappointing. Maybe he's just getting... lazy's not the right word. Maybe it's just he's becoming desensitized to what's going on in there. I don't think he's doing the worst job that we've ever seen. Absolutely not. I think there have been far worse referees. We've seen him recently. We've seen him in the past. Obviously, Herb Dean is not the worst referee. But the amount of mistakes he's making lately, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I really want him, or not the commission. I would love for him to go onto a podcast and maybe talk about what's going on. Maybe somebody who knows him talks to him. Be like, hey, maybe you take some time off from this. Find your passion, come back. Because I just don't think he is doing as good a job as he can. Because we've seen Herb. Herb is a really good referee when he's paying the fuck attention. I just don't think he is. I think he's having brain farts in there. I think he's having mental blocks. Maybe his heart's not in it. You know, it's just like anything else in your life. We don't talk about it. We act like they're a computer program that they should just, do their job. You go in there. You tell them not to do the fouls. You stop the fight when you need to stop the fight. You keep it going. You need to keep it going. You warn them when you need to warn them. Blah, 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 blah. It's just a video game. But they're human beings, and that's a job. I'm sure you've experienced it in your life. When you're passionate about your work, you tend to do a better job at it. It's not always the case. Okay, just because you're passionate doesn't mean you're good at your job. It just means, in this case specifically, we have a long history of him doing a pretty good job, right? If not the best job. John McCarthy, Herb Dean. Why can't I think of the other guy's name? Crap. Starts with a G. The British guy. I think he does a pretty good job most of the time. Jason Herzog, he's been there around forever. I think he does a great job. I think Mark Smith is making improvements. He's just annoying because I hate his voice and he talks way too much in there. Anyway, bad stoppage. Congratulations to Cub Swanson. Getting it done, man. Getting it done still. It's just, what can I say about the guy? He's an incredible fighter. He really is. Coming off those 4 losses to Ortega, Frankie Edgar, Hinata Makano, Shane Burgos, and then beating Kron Gracie and Daniel Pineda. And then losing to... You remember that fight against Daniel Pineda? Everybody was talking crap. They're like, oh, look how big Pineda is. He's just taking him. Cub Swanson needs to be careful. And he just knocked him the fuck out. God, that was impressive and so much fun to see. And he has that fight against Giga Chikadze, who is an up-and-comer. It doesn't go so well. Gets TKO'd. He finishes Darren Elkins, which nobody really does. He's just, what a freaking a legend in the best way. It's a good dude. Doesn't miss weight. Nothing bad on his record. It's just fun. Love the guy. I want to see him keep fighting, but I understand, he is getting up there in years, and he's not the fighter he once was, and maybe he is, but everyone else has just passed him up as far as skill level and game plan and that kind of stuff. But, dude, I loved it. I love watching him fight. I'll always tune in for a Cub Swanson fight. Congratulations, man. That was awesome. Gerald Meerschaert taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Whatever. Boring fight? I'm going to say that a couple times, but he got on top early, but he didn't do any damage, and then Stoltz managed to get on top, do some more damage. Gerald looked even slower than he normally does, looked terrible in the second round. More of the same, just taking damage on the ground. Probably 2018 to Stoltz at that point. And then in the third round, kind of getting beat up again, but then manages to work his way on top and gets a rear naked choke. I mean, good for Meerschaert. I don't know how he wins fights. He moves slow. He doesn't hit hard. His cardio isn't the best. He just gets stuff done. It's really weird to see him win. Whatever. Cool win. Justin Tafa taking on Harry Hunsucker. Just sloppy heavyweights throwing big shots. Tafa missing fucking weight somehow at heavyweight. Holy shit. That's bad. I mean, he loses half his purse at heavyweight. That's horrible. Or 20% of his purse, whatever it is. Both guys were landing big shots, and then Tafa throws a head kick, and Hunsucker actually blocked the head kick pretty well, too. He had his arms up, and it hit his forearms the way it was supposed to, and I guess it was enough for it to knock him out. Maybe he just didn't want to be in there. Could have been one of those things. Sijara Eubanks taking on Melissa Gatto. So Sijara Eubanks also missed weight. Unacceptable, especially at flyweight. Unacceptable. Starting out with a nice cheating. Eubanks got nothing done. She was kind of just sitting on top of Gatto in the whole first round. There was submissions coming from Gatto, but like at the end of the round, I mean, we could look at it if you want. It wasn't a great fight anyway. But Eubanks at the end of the first round, she banked like 6 shots right before the round ended. I'd probably give her the first round. Second round was super boring. Probably give, because Eubanks tried to sit on top again, but then Gatto reversed, and then she sat on top and did a little bit of damage. Not really. And she won the second round, so 19-19. And then Gatto lands a great shot. So they kept saying to the liver. She landed with a teep kick, like our front kick, where the toes dig in, right? They dig into the gut instead of it being flat like this or like a punching motion. It's where the toes like really dig in and get into the organs and stuff. They kept saying like, oh, it's to the liver or to the solar plexus. It looks like it was to the diaphragm, right? One of those shots that knock the wind out of you and make it so you can't breathe. I think it was kind of that situation. Because it creates this muscular response where it tightens up and it makes it so you can't take a breath, like you can't take a deep breath. And Eubanks just hobbled over in pain, and that was the end of the fight. Hold on, I want to look at her record. Yeah, I think she needs to go away. Lost to Aspen Ladd, Betchko Hea, beat Sarah Morris, Julia Vila. Lost to Ketlin Vieira, Pani Khanzad. Elise Reed. I guess you could step her down in competition again, but I don't know how you do that. And I don't know, man. Her record in the UFC, I think she's 500 in the UFC. Yeah, 5-5. Not great. Oh, yeah, her record overall is 8-7. That's women's MMA for you. All right. Jourdain versus Ewell. It was a good fight. There was lots of action on both sides. I think Ewell just had trouble. And the first round was pretty close. I thought Ewell did a good job landing damage. And good, he was he had a good jab, and Jourdain landed like really power low kicks. I would probably give the first round to Jourdain, and then the second round, just a total blowout. And you see here 60-18, all in favor of Jourdain. And then the third round, same thing. Even at the end of the fight, he was like yelling and screaming in Ewell's face, and then Ewell's like, "Come on!" With I think there was 3 seconds left in the fight, and Ewell goes like this, and Jourdain moves forward and front kicks him and flings him across the octagon into the fence. It was freaking awesome. Love to see that aggression. Super cool. Not a bad fight. That one's worth watching. I mean, wasn't the most technical on both sides, but Jourdain definitely is someone to look out for in the future. Macy Chiasson versus Raquel Pennington. Why is this at featherweight? That's my first note for this. So the first round, let's see, what did I do? Garbage. I had kind of like garbage striking in the first. I probably gave this first to Chiasson for like the power she was throwing out. But Rocky started the second round with some beautiful combos, really good combos. She was timing her right hand really well. Good. She was throwing some good hooks. But, oh yeah, so Chiasson was the bigger fight. Oh, she ended up finishing her with a 10-finger choke. Like, it's just a front choke. Raquel Pennington got the front choke. So Chiasson was the bigger fighter, the taller fighter. Yeah, she came in on short notice. That's fine. But she's supposed to be the better striker and all those things. She couldn't even do that, and she's at featherweight. Dude, I don't know what her future is in the UFC. Parisian versus Mays, sloppy heavyweights, doing some. Josh Parisian for Dontel Mays. There was this weird situation. There was a north-south, and Mays was on top, and he was humping Parisian's face. So some gifs of that will be going around in the future, so that's fun. Other than that, nothing of note. Mays gets a TKO win in the third round. Not a good fight. Very boring, very sloppy. Jordan Leavitt versus Matt Sayles. It's kind of weird. In the second round, Leavitt got an inverted triangle, but it didn't look like it was really in. I think Sayles just didn't want to be there. It was weird. That's it. And we don't have anything to preview for next weekend. Oh, we got to talk. Oh, shit. We got to talk about Woodley versus Jake Paul. Okay, so here's the deal. Jake Paul ends up knocking out Tyron Woodley, I think, in the sixth. And it was in the sixth round. I think it was the sixth round. Yeah. Anyway, this fight, this boxing match, was so bad. So bad. Paul looked not good. Woodley did not look better than he did the last time. I think Woodley put on a better performance in comparison to Paul this time. By that, I mean, I think he won some actual rounds this time. But in the sixth, like, he was doing things. Who defends body shots like this with their gloves? Hey, I don't know what that was. At one point, there was a headbutt that Jake Paul got cut open for, and then, or with, from, whatever. And then at one point, they were kind of in a like a tussle and a tangle, and Woodley picked him up and threw him on the ground. So that was cool. Other than that, man, this fight was bad. You do not need to watch it. If you watch the 9-second knockout, you watched the most interesting part of that entire boxing match. Nothing else happened, I promise you. So what does this mean for Tyron Woodley? He can keep boxing. I don't care. I think there's some interesting boxing matches he could probably have, make some money, and ride off into the sunset without taking as much damage as maybe he would in MMA. Maybe. Or vice versa. Maybe he goes to PFL or Bellator, can turn things around, make a little bit of money there. I don't know where the money is. I'm not his financial advisor. I'm not involved in those things. My guess with boxing would probably be the way to go, especially with the Jake Paul success. And what does Jake Paul do after this? He called out Masvidal and Nate Diaz after the fight. calling them bitches and for leaving early. Whatever. He wants to fight them. He made fun of Dana or called, told him to get out of the contract with Dana and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, Anderson Silva's boxing, so Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva, that could be a step up in competition while still not fighting a guy who's at his prime. So that could be a good move for Jake Paul. It keeps the theme of taking on retired MMA fighters as well. Also, there's a lot of Anderson Silva has a lot of respect beating a former boxing champion recently in boxing, and obviously knocking out Tito Ortiz in their match. Anderson Silva's a great striker and an excellent boxer. He is. He just is. Okay, if he went into boxing instead of MMA, he could have done very well. I don't know if he'd ever been champion or as dominant as he was in MMA. There's no way of knowing that. But based off of what we're seeing him and his advanced age, I think he would have done just fine. Also, Tyron Woodley, this knockout was real bad. He just falls face first. It did not look good. He just got caught with a big right hand. His mom was freaking out at people afterwards. Just kind of a shit show. Not fun. The aftermath was not fun. I did not get sucked into this one like I did the first one. I did not think Tyron Woodley was going to win. I did not think he was going to knock out Jake Paul. I also didn't think Jake Paul was going to knock out Woodley. I thought it was going to be a terrible fight. I thought a terrible boxing match. I thought they were both going to be conservative. They were going to ride this one out all 10 rounds or whatever, and it was just going to be a boring decision. I was wrong. I was right up until the knockout, okay? I know that sounds like I'm cherry-picking events to fit my narrative, but go back and watch that boxing match. 99% of it was garbage. Because I can tell you it was garbage because the entire fight can be condensed. All the interesting things, can be condensed into 3 seconds, which was the knockout. That's the only interesting thing that happened. There was no other good boxing that occurred in 6 rounds of boxing from these two ding-dongs. I mean, I don't hate Jake Paul. I don't hate Tyron Woodley. I thought it was going to be garbage. Jake Paul, it was garbage, but then Jake Paul got a knockout. There's some other events on here, or other fights on here. He had Frank Gore versus Darren Williams. Darren Williams ended up getting a decision win, 4-round exhibition. Well, 4-round fight. I don't know if it was an exhibition. It was weird. Just weird. Not a terrible showing for boxing because, you have like one of the best female fighters. Yeah, Amanda Serrano defeated Miriam Gutierrez. She almost pitched a shutout. One of the judges did give her a shutout, 100-90. The other ones were 99-90 and 99-91. So I thought Amanda Serrano is an excellent boxer. She looks great. She brings credibility to the Jake Paul team and sponsorship and management and all that stuff. And she's getting paid to do this stuff. I think this is actually good for female boxing. It elevates the profile of female boxing. Because I know who Amanda Serrano is. I didn't know who Clarissa Shields was. And this is on me, because granted, let me say this first. I'm not the biggest boxing fan, right? I don't watch every boxing event. I don't watch every boxing match. I sure as heck am not going out of my way to make sure I catch like the undercard on these boxing pay-per-views, okay? I'm not. But I didn't know who Clarissa Shields was except in passing. I'd hear people mention stuff about her, and then I actually didn't really hear about her until she started talking about coming over to MMA. Right? This was years ago. Before she actually made the move, she talked about going into MMA. And rightfully so, for good reason, because the money in female MMA is much greater and the potential is much greater than in female boxing. For better or for worse. You can talk about whatever you want. But if someone like Jake Paul can bring credibility credibility to female boxing by bringing eyes to the sport, maybe this isn't all bad. We'll see what happens after he disappears. Is Amanda Serrano going to carry on the name? Is she going to carry on the highlights? Is she going to carry on and be a pay-per-view draw? I don't know. I mean, if this ended right now, I would say no. Outright, I would say no. But going forward, maybe she does. And, it'd be funny because Clarissa Shields gets so pissed at Jake Paul. She just talks nonstop shit about him. And I think part of it is she sees a person who's unskilled getting undue credibility in a sport that she worked her whole life to excel and succeed at. And then the other side of it is she's just jealous. Like, you could tell it in her comments, too. Like, she's really jealous that she doesn't get paid like he does. And she might, right? Or she might be like, oh, he doesn't deserve the money that he's getting. Like, all these other boxers deserve so much more. Boxing is a product like anything else. If no one wants to buy your product, i.e. no one wants to watch you fight, then the market dictates that you don't deserve that money inherently. I mean, it could be because of bad management, bad promotion, cultural stereotypes, sexism. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just laying out a bunch of excuses or reasons why people would put that out there. But I'm telling you, the market dictates your value, especially in boxing when your management team can argue for your contracts and your money and your payouts and all this stuff. In the UFC, it's a little different. Actually, it's a lot different. But the market still dictates what you're worth. It's just that the UFC controls the market, so it's a little bit weird. So yeah, I mean, congratulations, Jake Paul, on a fun knockout. He's got 3 cool knockouts on his record now. Pretty cool. 5 years ago, if you said Jake Paul was going to be the face of boxing outside of Canelo Alvarez, I would say you're crazy and that's stupid. But look where we are. And he's on Showtime Boxing. Holy shit. All right, that's it. I will be back next week, hopefully with Nate. We're going to talk about Cobra Kai Season 3, the last season. We'll make our guesses for Season 4, our preview. I have not watched the preview, and I don't want to. I want to come at it fresh. But that's it. Yep, we should be... Oh, the next episode will be on... I will release the next episode on... Oh, crud. The next episode's going to be the day after Christmas. I might have to release it on like Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see. Be on the lookout for that. All right. Appreciate y'all. I really do. Please like and subscribe if you liked all this stuff. I really appreciate you. I hope you come back for next week. We talk about MMA all the time. Next week we're not going to be talking about MMA because there is none. But yeah, I love y'all. I really do. I hope you guys have a great holiday. I hope you guys have a great Christmas. Whatever else you're celebrating, I hope you guys have a fun time with your families. Or, if you enjoy spending time on your own, I hope you enjoy that too. Love y'all.